What up, YouTube? It's Aaron, your personal driver. What's going on, guys? First off, we got Patrick Sargent in the house. He says first. We got Jose Contreras in the house. What's up, guys? I know it's only been like I've only missed 1 week, right? Like I didn't do a live stream last week, but I feel like it has been forever since I've done a live stream. I just missed 1 week, and I feel like my life is going crazy. Uber's not gonna like this, indeed. Robert May is in the house. What's up, man? What's going on? So, I'm just gonna jump right to it, guys. The introductory part of this is just gonna be straight me going over the article about it. Then after I go over the article, which for those of you watching on replay, I will link in the description once I'm done with the live feed, so you guys can look it up yourself. Then I'll talk about my opinion on it and what I think is what's going to happen. But let's go straight to the article, guys. We're going to be talking today about whether or not we're employees, which I know we talk about a lot. Okay, so, oh, that's not the right one. Bam, that's the one I want. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, California Supreme Court rules in favor of gig workers. Jose Posada's in the house. What's up? Part-time driver in the house. What's up? So, this is our Chief Justice here in California. She might be the hottest Chief Justice. I don't know. I haven't seen all of them, but she's pretty young and pretty hot, so that's fantastic. It says, in a unanimous decision yesterday, California Supreme Court ruled in favor of independent contractors seeking employee status under or from a last-mile delivery service in a case that could have wide ramifications for Uber, Lyft, Amazon, Instacart, and other companies buoyed? This is why I don't read, guys. Buoyed, I guess? I don't know. This word, whatever this crazy word is, by the sweat of the gig economy. Jose says, preach. Timothy Wong's in the house. What up, brother? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, no kidding. I cannot read today, huh? So this was first filed, and that means it was the lawsuit started in April of 2005. The suit alleged that drivers for Diamex, had been misclassified as independent contractors. Starting in 2004, drivers were required to provide their own vehicles and pay for all the incurred costs that came with that, like gas, maintenance, insurance, and tolls, while being, quote, generally expected to wear Dynamex shirts and badges and or the customer's decal on their vehicles when making deliveries for the customer. Those customers included companies like Home Depot, Office Depot, and Amazon. With no guarantee on the type or number of deliveries they'd be making, shouldering all liability, and facing termination at any time for any reason. Geez, what is this starting to sound like? Life for Dynamex workers seemed both grim and totally ordinary in the landscape of gig work. They were converted from employees to this new, more precarious classification after management concluded that such a conversion would generate economic savings for the company. The ruling states created a deeply lopsided power dynamic. Keep in mind, this decision was unanimous, so it was 9-0 or 5-0. I forget how many Supreme Court judges there are in California. Let's catch up with the chat. Vinny's in the house. What's up, Vinny? Muhammad Umar's in the house. What's up, man? So what does this mean exactly? Countrywide or just California? Timothy, we're gonna get there, buddy. Just hang in there, I promise. Flowmaster 8, yo, what up? What's up, Flowmaster in the house? Uber Lyft is gonna pull out of California. They're gonna say that. Good luck. They're both headquartered here. The Chief Justice. Oh God, I'm not even gonna try that. Let's just call her the hot Chief Justice. The hot Chief Justice words. Such incentives include the unfair competitive advantage the business may obtain over competitors that properly classify similar workers as employees and thereby assume the fiscal and other responsibilities and burdens that an employee owes to its employees. Huh, interesting. I wonder who that sounds like. I wonder if I wonder if Uber or Lyft have any similar competitors that have to classify their workers as employees. Brian's in the house. No, man, I'm not the man. You're the man. What's up? Good to see you in here. When a worker has not independently decided to engage in an independently established business, but instead is simply designated an independent contractor by the unilateral action of a hiring entity, there is a substantial risk that the hiring business is attempting to evade the demands of an applicable wage order through misclassification. California Supreme Court applied to the so-called ABC test to Dynamex's, I don't even know how to say this stupid company's name, drivers used in several states. The test is a broad means of determining the worker's status either as an employee or a contractor by considering the following criteria. A, that the worker is free from the control and direction of the hirer in connection with the performance of the work, both under the contract for the performance of such work, and in fact, B, that the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of hiring for the entity's business. Now remember, I want you guys to remember this right here, B. That is ultimately what made this case go. We'll talk about that later. But the worker, if to be an independent contractor, you have to work outside what the company's day-to-day business is, okay? So for example, Uber's day-to-day business is obviously driving people around. So to be an independent contractor under California law, you have to do something other than drive people around. Daniel Smith's in the house, by the way. What's going on? Yes, dude, she is, Jose says this, the Chief Justice is a MILF. Yeah, she is rich and powerful and sexy. Yo, 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 audio's a bit low. Doc Rocks, you always say that every time. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. It's on max. I'll pull it a little closer. Microphone a little closer. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help a bit. It's the first comment every time from Doc Rocks. Anyway, NC, moving along. Oh, Jermaine's in the house. Hearts for Jermaine. You rock me to sleep also? Oh, wait. That's borderline creepy, but I'll say yes. I don't care. I'll take borderline creepy in a super chat. So, let's get some hearts in the chat. Let's get some hearts in the chat, guys. Hearts. Here, I'll give some broken hearts for the creepiness, and then I'll give you lots of other hearts here. Lots of hearts. So look, there's a Cupid heart too to balance out, and then we'll do some colored hearts. Lots of hearts for Jermaine. I love your kid just chilling. Sounds powerful, man. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Okay, back to this. So part C. This is the ABC test. That the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as the work performed by the hiring entity. Yes, creepy hearts. Exactly. Okay, so that's the ABC test for here in California. The state found that a sufficient commonality of interest in regards to B and C. The court's findings will likely be an important point of reference in the future suits seeking to reclassify gig workers as employees. So that's the article. Let's talk about the article, guys. Okay, so what does this mean, right? Why should we care? Well, first off, remember, the gig economy is California. San Francisco is where all this stuff is. So, like, if this was, like, the Idaho Supreme Court, it wouldn't really matter, right? No one really cares about what Idaho has to say. But California is where, first off, most people in the country, right? 55 to 57 million people live in California. Most gig economy companies start or operate in California. Even ones that start on the East Coast, like, you know, in New York or Boston, they come to San Francisco and LA next. This is where the gig economy is. Uber and Lyft are here. Like, they started here. Their company headquarters are here. It's really important in the gig economy world. Hey, Johnny, can you go put some clothes on, bud?
Go to your room. Go to your room.
I need to turn my tablet. Okay, well, go put your clothes on first. My kid is already trying to be naked on the internet. Who knows? All right, so that's why California matters. Now, if you live outside of California, this does not apply to you. I keep trying to tell you guys, when it comes to contractors versus employees, Cape Cod rideshare in the house, judicial Uber smackdown. Exactly, Cape Cod. When it comes to independent contractors, the IRS gives out guidelines, like general guidelines for tax purposes of how we should classify yourself as a contractor or as an independent or as an employee, right? The states then take those guidelines and make specific laws for your state. So if you are an employee in California, that does not necessarily mean you're an employee in Arizona or in Oregon, right? Even though they're neighboring states. So this will only apply for California. However, if you're going to be in the gig economy, You have to work in California. There's no way that like Uber's just gonna be like, well, we're not gonna service California anymore, so we're leaving California. Like, that's not gonna happen, right? There's no way that they're gonna leave California. So California has always been the standard bearer for the country. Same with Texas to a certain extent, because Texas is a pretty big population too. For example, cars. So one thing that California does is it has emission standards every 5 years until 2025 where you have to hit. Meaning if Toyota wants to sell cars in California, they have to hit certain emission mandates. Can you give them to me? He's crying because he's tired and he's trying to go to sleep, but there's too much going on in the house. Okay, so Toyota has to make cars. Time to get paid, says Jose. Yeah, exactly. We'll get to that in a second. Shh. Get him away from the microphone. Okay, so in order to operate in the United States, Toyota has to make cars that meet California standards. So why would they make two types of cars that meet two different standards, right? Like, they're not going to make California cars in one factory and then build a whole nother factory to build the rest of the United States cars. They build cars that they sell in the whole country that meet California standards because California has 55 million potential customers and Toyota wants to operate in California. It's the same thing with Uber and Lyft and any other nice shoulder switch, yeah. We'll talk about that later, Timothy. I just want to go this one by one. Jonathan, you can stay here, but you have to be quiet, okay? I'm on the line. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody.
So, the same thing happens for gig economy workers. Like, Postmates can say they're not going to operate in California, but then they're going to leave 55 million customers on the table. And guess what? Other people will fill the void here, okay? This isn't Montana, okay? This isn't Nebraska or South Dakota. Their people live in California. And people want services like Postmates. They want services like Uber and Lyft. So if Postmates leaves California, there are plenty of other companies who can fill the void. Or this is Tech Central, right? Some Google employees will leave Google and start an app to fill Postmates' shoes. There's so many tech workers here from all around the world. This is Tech Central. So whatever California sets as a standard basically becomes the standard for the whole country because that's how everyone's going to have to operate. Furthermore, Toyota upfront pricing, that's a funny joke. Furthermore, shh, come on, buddy. Work with me here. Furthermore, other employees in other states can use this California's decision as evidence in their lawsuits that they have in other other states. I don't know why I couldn't say the word states. That doesn't automatically mean anything, right? Because different states have different laws. Furthermore, if this goes to the federal level, and there are some lawsuits at the federal level. In fact, a federal judge just ruled against Uber Black drivers as being employees. They can use this as precedent too. So it is an important decision, even though it only affects, California, right? That's why it's big news everywhere. But the important thing is in this particular lawsuit is that one of the criteria for deciding whether you're an independent contractor or not is, do you do work as like the day-to-day business of the company, or do you do work outside of that? So that was, if you remember, I can switch back to this if you guys are just joining. So this is the criteria, the ABC test, right? There are three things that the Supreme Court looked at here in California. Let's zoom in on that. And B is the most important here. That the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. What that means is, in order to be considered an independent contractor, you have to do something that is not what the company normally does. Here's an example. If you're a rental company, right? So you rent out apartment complexes or buildings or whatever to businesses or customers. That's what your job is. You're like ABC's rental company, and you rent out units. That's your job. You hire independent contractors, say, to do plumbing. This building needs plumbing. So you hire somebody who owns a plumbing business to come to the apartment complex and fix the plumbing. That's an independent contractor. That's a 1099. But if you hire somebody to, for example, do contracts for the apartment contract company, meaning if I want to come in and rent an apartment, I'd go see Susie, and Susie does all like does my background check and takes my application and takes my deposit and stuff like that. That person's it can't be an independent contractor because she does the day-to-day performance of the work, right? Well, that applies straight to here in Uber and Lyft world. Obviously, I don't think Uber or Lyft can say that their business model is not driving people. ATQ Mac in the house. What's up, ATQ Mac? Obviously, Uber's main business is transportation. So every driver does not perform work outside the usual course of that business. Now, Uber is going to try to say probably that they are a tech company and therefore their day-to-day operation is tech related, like coding and that kind of stuff. But that's just, I don't think that's going to hold water. Okay. And that's where we're at now. So because of this ruling, I imagine that Postmates customers, or excuse me, Postmates drivers, Caviar drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers are all going to start lawsuits for whether or not you're an employee. So, what does that mean? What does it mean to be an employee or not be an employee in the world of Uber and Lyft? Okay. So, obviously, oh, Sherrard Q. Wait, I'm late to the party. So they passed a law in Cali about Uber employee over partner. What's up, brethren? Okay, Fernando's in the house. Sherrod Q's in the house. Tech my ass, exactly. Okay, so I'll just do a real quick recap for everyone joining. Let's go over here to this screen. So this super hot Supreme Court judge, she is the Chief Justice. I mean, she's a boss lady. Ruled in favor of gig economy workers. That's the title of this. What happened is Supreme Court of California has this test for employee. This is going to be the test right here. They call it the ABC test. Here are the three things, A, B, C, that you have to qualify. Okay, Sherrod? And they ruled that this driving company, Dynamex, their drivers worked basically the same way that Uber and Lyft did, and they are not independent contractors. Okay? Sugar Shine's in the house. What's up, Sugar Shine? I always give Sugar Shine a little bit of some hearts when I see her. Oh, those are also for Jermaine. Sorry, you can share those with Jermaine and Sugar Shine. But Sherrod, here's the important part. B, worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. So to be an independent contractor, you have to do something other than what is the normal for that company. Okay? It is big news. So Dynamex is a driving company that delivers things like Amazon Flex or Postmates. But what I'm proposing is that this can also then apply to Uber, Lyft, Postmates, that kind of stuff. Amazon Flex. So the pros and cons. If I'm being honest, guys, I don't want to be an employee. I don't want to be an employee. I'll say it again. I don't want to be an employee. But I think if you look at all reasonable analysis, we are employees currently with Uber and Lyft. Timothy says, Aaron, funny here in Milwaukee, Uber's pricing is creeping ever so close to even in some cases exceeding taxi prices. Thought that was pretty interesting. Yes, exactly. Anthony Perez, what will probably happen now? More lawsuits will happen across the country. Yes. Well, to be fair, there's a lot of lawsuits in general. To answer that question directly, I specifically think gig economy workers should have their own classification. There should be employee, there should be contractor, and in the middle somewhere, there should be gig economy workers. Because I don't think that we fit employee or contractor very well. And it's just time that the law catches up with technology. And there should be some protections for gig economy workers. And there should also be some things that maybe we don't have to do. Not a good thing employee status. Well, Okay, maybe we'll talk. I'm gonna get that as soon as people stop talking in the chat. I like when you guys talk though. Smart Driver says, so what about the controller weight to the courts put in that perspective? So what about the controller weight? I'm not sure what that means, Smart Driver. What do you mean by that? What about the controlling the driver's brake? Does that come into perspective? Okay, so think of employee versus contractor as not black and white, but as a spectrum, okay? So like 1 is employee, 10 is contractor, and every job lies somewhere on that spectrum. And a court's job is to decide, is it more employee-ish or is it more contractor-ish, right? So there's all this gray area, and so what they have is different criteria to decide whether this specific job is a contractor or not. One of the factors is scheduling. So if you remember, the federal court ruled in favor of Uber when a Uber black driver sued to be an employee. And one of the factors in that federal ruling was you can take a cigarette break at any time you want to as a driver. You don't have to ask Uber if you're allowed to take a cigarette break. So that's what you're talking about. That judge thought that made it more contractor-ish. But this is California. So remember, laws in every state regarding contractors is different. The federal government through the IRS has like basic outlines for what they consider contractor versus employee for tax purposes, but each of the 50 states has their own laws. So here in California, they do what's called an ABC test, and that's what I was showing before. I can show you the ABC test if you want to know how in California you're classified. So here, you have right here, A, B, and C. These are the 3 different factors that judges will look at here in California to decide what kind of classification you have. I hope that answers your question, Smart TV. Sugar Shine says, Uber was more expensive in New York than a taxi. I took it to the hotel. It was $500 or $55. I took a cab to the airport. It was $50. Go figure. Yeah, it's because of upfront pricing. Gustavo says, taxi's still going to be strong, apparently. Well, I don't know about it. I think that the taxis are a subpar product, and so with time they'll be gone too, but maybe. Timothy says, independent contractor I think is the best right now, but I hear you gig economy classification. Yeah, I agree. Hey, Sugar Shine, I live in New York. Taxis have a flat pricing when it comes to airports. That's why, not more expensive in general. Hope that helps at Sugar Shine. Sugar Shine says, I think he's asking like, as if you were over-the-road trucker. That sounds like an electronic log question where they can have over 70 hours in a week. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Do they take Uber controlling the rates into perspective? In this instance, no. They ruled that there are 3 conditions, A, B, and C, and that gig economy workers count as employees under B and C. So the day-to-day operation is still up to you under A, right? Like the worker is free from control and direction. You're still free from control and direction from Uber, but and that includes pricing, I guess. But B and C was where they violated it. So they didn't specifically consider pricing in this ruling. No. Bunny Loves Ham is in the house. Nothing is going to change. Well, I doubt that. In California it'll change, but not probably anywhere else directly. Remember, the UK already ruled like this. Yeah, I would definitely go with the cabs in New York. Thank you for the information. Oh, we're talking about that. So what are the ramifications of this? We're getting to that. Well, we don't know what the ramifications are. But in the short term, what's going to happen is lawyers are going to get as many gig economy clients as they possibly can and have a giant misclassification lawsuit, class action lawsuit. Jonathan, please be quiet. So what's gonna happen is every lawyer who does this kind of like law is gonna basically file a gazillion lawsuits, and they're gonna sue the shit out of every gig economy company, Amazon Flex to Uber, everything they can for misclassification. That's what's gonna happen short term. Long term, I don't know. It'll be really interesting. I don't it's really hard to appeal a state Supreme Court ruling to the federal level. You'd have to show that the state is in violation of the federal Constitution. And since the IRS gives general guidelines that are then filled in by the state, it would be really hard to show that Uber and Lyft's, or in this case Dynamex's as a company, that their constitutional rights are violated and that California state law is in violation of the U.S. Constitution. So that's why state Supreme Court's decisions very rarely go to the Supreme Court. Sometimes they go into federal court, but it's very rare, right? So I don't know. I don't see this specific decision being overturned, but remember, this is only for California. So we'll see what happens. PUC also ruled last Friday that Uber is a transportation company. I did not know that, but that, first off, add Sadler's in the house. But yeah, that fits into this too. If it's decided that Uber is a transportation company, and I think most people would say that that's true, then yes. Your son is so cute. Oh, say hi. Say hi. Say thank you, Bunny Love. In NYC, this might pass the Diaz law. Check it out. Drivers will have to pay, what, $2,000 per year? And also, driver can only work for one rideshare app, so you have to choose either Uber, Lyft, or Juno. It's interesting. Privately owned cabs with business licenses with no medallions are better because they can fluctuate prices unlike yellow cab. Oh, we're still talking about that. Okay. This will not be good. This will be bad for everybody. I'm not entirely sure that's true. Genjoy's in the house. This probably won't end well for drivers. Well, to be honest, either way, it doesn't end well for drivers. So I'm not sure what's going to help us more. Sometime you can be smart and mess it up for everyone. That's true. Okay, so let's get back to what I was saying beforehand. Poor guy's tired, but he doesn't want to sleep. So, like I said, I want to be an independent contractor. I don't want to be an employee. But, guys, it's not entirely bad. So, one good thing is, especially for those of you who don't live in San Francisco or LA, or Chicago, or Seattle, or these big markets where it's busy all the time, if you're an employee and you log into the Uber app, you're going to make minimum wage. So those people complaining that they're making like $5 an hour because they only get one ride every hour because there's not enough business, well, I mean, this is there's a good chance, if this is true, that you can log into 3 apps and make minimum wage times 3 on each of those apps. And they'll have to pay you that, right? So if you have Uber, Lyft, Postmates, and DoorDash, potentially you could log into all 4, and if on each of those apps you don't make minimum wage or better, you can get paid 4 times on that. Now, they might close the loophole, like Fernando just said, because there's a Diaz law that would make you only work for 1. That's why, right? So if you're an employee, you can, it's unfair, I think, in my opinion, to have 7 apps on and collect minimum wage from 7 different companies and literally not work, which has potential here. The other thing to consider is if you're an employee, if you log in more than 40 hours in a week, you'll get paid overtime. So like in Seattle, it's $15 an hour. So you're going to make an extra $7.50 after 40 hours. And most full-time drivers drive like 60 to 80 hours a week, right? So that means that you're guaranteed after 40 hours of working that you will be making, I'm so bad at math, $22.50 an hour in Seattle. That's what time and a half is for minimum wage. That also means sitting in an airport queue is a lot more attractive. Because for those 3 hours in between rides where you're sitting around not doing anything, you're getting paid $22 an hour. So if I worked in Seattle and we're included as employees, I'm going to work my ass off Monday through Friday. I'm going to get to 40 hours. And then Saturday and Sunday, my ass is just going to sit at the airport I don't care how long, 4 hours, 5 hours. I'm going to watch Netflix, and I'm going to get paid $22.50 to watch Netflix in the airport queue. So that's one thing that could happen. Another thing is employees have a lot more protections. One, you just can't be fired. And I think that's really important for drivers, especially with these background checks where Uber just straight fires people. Just thousands of people just off the platform in one day. Uber said we're changing our background policy. Fuck all y'all motherfuckers. And they just fire people. People complain that you're driving drunk, right? And Uber will just kick you off the platform. They won't even ask. They won't do a test. You could be driving for 3 years. You're just gone. All of those firings will then fall under state law for employees. It's not, you can't just fire an employee for no reason. You have to have what's known as cause. So the firing has to have cause. So if you can show that Uber and Lyft fired you without cause, you can sue for compensation. And that's really big. Let me switch back to this, okay? Because one of the biggest complaints I hear from drivers from this channel is, hey, Aaron, I got kicked off Uber. I got kicked off Lyft. I don't know why. Well, if you're an employee, they have to tell you why. They can't just cut you off the platform. So that'll be really good for drivers. Another thing you can get is if you're hurt on the job, you can apply for workman's comp. Okay? This happened in New York a few times. There's been a couple lawsuits in other places. But if you're an employee and you get in a car accident, while you are not at work, which means until you turn your app on again, you will get paid about what your weekly compensation is. Now, both Uber and Lyft's insurance and most personal insurance, to include commercial insurance, does not cover workman comp-like situations. So meaning if you are out of work, you're out of money. And even though you can get your medical bills covered, you can sue for like damages, right? Like if you're really hurt or whatever. But the actual weekly sum amounts of money you're not covered for. But if you're an employee, you can apply for workman's comp. So while you're in the hospital recovering, whatever, while your back hurts too much to drive, you'll get workman's comp. Lastly, is if you are fired from Uber or Lyft, you can get unemployment insurance. And this is where it's really weird, because I don't know, man. I don't know if you get kicked off of Uber, Lyft, Postmates, and DoorDash if you can collect 4 unemployment checks. I don't know. I also don't know if you're driving for Lyft and you kicked off of Uber if you can get unemployment insurance. I don't know what that law is. I'm sure that there's something about that. Hillbilly Rideshare's in the house. What's up, man? So that would be good too if you get kicked off. If someone, like, say someone says you're driving crazy, Uber fires you, you're not on the platform anymore, you can't do anything. Well, you can get some unemployment insurance while you're appealing that. See, that's another problem, is Uber kicks you off, doesn't tell you why. You go through all this hassle to get back on the platform. Well, that usually takes 3 weeks to a month to get you back on the platform. And that sucks. The other thing you would do is, like, when I moved from Seattle to San Francisco, I couldn't get on Uber for about 4 months, right? 3 months? Yes, December, January, February, March. So 4 months I couldn't get on Uber because it took them that long to switch my account from Seattle to San Francisco. Well, I'd be getting unemployment for that time. Okay? So they would cover me while Uber was fucking around trying to get me on the platform. Rideshare driven in the house. Okay? So those are some of the good things that would happen if you're an employee. Okay? You have benefits. Oh, also Social Security. So if something happens to you, you lose your job, you can get covered for Social Security where those laws apply. Some people have to medically retire, and so then they get paid by Social Security, right? Medicare, those kind of things that you would normally qualify into with an employee job, you would pay in here. So what are some of the bad things about being an employee? So the biggest one is taxes, right? So if you are an employee, it's going to be much harder to write off taxes. Like right now, I fucking write off everything. I don't give a shit. I give all my receipts to my tax guy. He tells me this qualifies, this doesn't qualify. And whatever, I write everything off. A portion of my rent I write off because I have this little desk set up here, right? And so even though my whole house isn't my office, this desk space is considered, right? So, you know, what, about 10% of my rent is tax covered, right? Gas, maintenance, car payments, insurance, all that kind of stuff. If you're an employee, some of those taxes or tax benefits go away. Also, you have to pay into unemployment insurance. You have to pay into Social Security. You have to pay payroll taxes. There's all these other taxes you'll have to pay as an employee, which kind of sucks. So there's that problem. The other thing is, if you're an employee, Uber and Lyft are going to want to control your day-to-day operation more, right? I doubt they'll ever go to a schedule, but they could. They could potentially say, we're only going to allow shifts. So you have to start at 6 a.m. And you're only going to work 7 hours. And then you can't work the rest of the day, right? Because we're not going to pay you overtime. They could cap the number of drivers there are. It's like, hey, since we have to pay minimum wage, if you aren't busy, we're going to make sure your ass is busy from the time you sign in to the time you sign off. So whatever. A small city, it would be like 100. That's the maximum people we're going to allow on the platform. In a big city, like maybe 10,000. I don't know what the numbers are. I don't run Uber, right? So I'm just saying random numbers. But they're saying this is the maximum amount of numbers. The shift starts at 7. Log into the app and be ready to take rides at 7. And you're going to work from 7 to 3. So they could, so that would be frustrating, right? Now, you could drive for Uber and Lyft, but you couldn't do it like at the same time, right? Or you'd have to set they could say, hey, if you're going to drive for Uber, you can only drive for Uber since you're an employee. But like if you work at Target, you can also work at Walmart as long as your schedules don't conflict. So you could potentially just pick up 2 shifts on Uber and Lyft, right? But that would be more of a pain in the ass. Right now, I use like 7 apps, and I'll just work for whoever gives me the most money, the biggest bonus, the biggest surge or whatever. That's what I do right now. Other than your scheduling, which would be really terrible, is they could just cap your money and say you're going to make whatever it is, 15 bucks an hour, 20 bucks an hour. And so I would end up making less money because you guys see my live streams. I make between $25 and $35 on average. Some days I make up to $40 an hour. So if Uber says the average driver makes 17 bucks, we're going to pay you 17 bucks an hour while you're driving for Uber. My income's going to drop substantially. Like I can't work 12 hours and make 400 bucks, right? Like I would have to actually work these shifts and these hours and I get paid a wage. And so I'm interested in that. Another problem for being an employee is, they could make sure that you go to a local hub, right, and clock in. So, like taxi cab drivers, a lot of times have to go to the taxi cab hub, clock in, get their taxi cab, and go. And so they could have that equivalent. Whatever the closest green hub is, they could, if you're an employee, say you have to clock in here at the hub. So your ass is going to drive all the way, clock in, go out and do your job, and then come back and clock out at the end of the day. That would suck. That's potentially something that could happen, right? The other one is you wouldn't necessarily work where you wanted to work. So if you're an employee and Uber says, hey, we need someone in San Jose, you're going to San Jose. You're going to San Jose. You can't do anything about it. That's where they want you to go. I'm not saying that that's what will happen. I'm saying if you're an employee, that is what happens. So those are both sides of the coin. Yes, you have protections. Yes, maybe you could make a little bit of money, at least at first. Like it turns out I'm an employee and I'm making minimum wage, I'm gonna turn on every motherfucking app. I'm collecting minimum wage from all them bitches. I'll make like 80 bucks an hour. You're gonna make 80 bucks an hour working 10 apps. I don't care. Eventually they'll pass a law or say you can't do that, but not at first. At first, I'm gonna make that money. So, yeah, those are the different things. Now I'm gonna go back to the chat. Hey Johnny, you're going to your room now. Go to your room. Go to your room. I'm gonna count to 3. 1, 2. So let's go back to the chat, guys. So, wow, you guys said a lot while I was ranting. Sometime you can be smart. Okay, yeah, I read that. So, therefore, all drivers will have to meet TCP requirements. That's a possibility, too. I'm not a lawyer, but state law supersedes federal law. That's the opposite of true. So, federal law always supersedes state law. And now, the state can sue the federal government. That happens all the time. States can sue states, too. And the only person who can arbitrate a state suing a state is the Supreme Court of the United States. In fact, back in the day, that used to be one of the only things they did. Or they did frequently. Is like, one big thing is like water, right? So like, say South Carolina built a dam on the South Carolina-North Carolina border. And they said, ha! All the water's ours, bitch! You can't have any! Well, then North Carolina could sue South Carolina. They would both send lawyers to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court would then rule on whether they have to share the water or not. That being said, federal law always supersedes state law. And there can be... There have been multiple examples, and almost every single one of the examples, it's unanimous. Supreme Court says federal law always outrules state law. So I don't know where you got that, but that's incorrect. Especially if it has a constitutional matter, right? Like, so the Constitution of the United States says there can't be any slavery unless you are a prisoner. So if South Carolina decided to just have slaves tomorrow, like they passed a law like the state of Georgia says that slavery is okay, well, then that would be in violation of the Constitution. So anyone could sue them and then get that overturned, right? That's why segregation was such a pain in the ass for the states, because the federal court ruled that you couldn't have segregation, but states still wanted to be racist against black people, and so they tried to pass segregation laws anyway, and those all got challenged and overturned. I'm in Chicago and my hourly is really good. That's basically what I just said. I would get fucked if I was making minimum wage here in California. I make a lot more than minimum wage when I do Uber and Lyft, so I'd be super upset about that. That's why you won't be able to log into more than one app. That's true. That'll probably be a restriction if you're an employee, but not at first. All I know is the guy that works for GoPuff, it brings me food like every day, says he makes $1,000 a week on Puff. You are talkative today, huh? You are talkative today. Do you want to get put down? Or, you're just angry in general? You didn't want to be put down. Okay. That works for me because you were getting annoying. Babies, man. Babies. The independent country of California. I wish. An employee, you get more rights, sick time. Oh, I forgot about sick time. That's right. So you get vacation time, you get sick time. I forgot about that. So if you want to make $200 today, you don't want to go to work, cash in a sick day, cash in a vacation day. Yeah, so the average vacation is about 2 weeks. So if you work for Uber full time, Uber would have to pay you 2 weeks vacation. That would be pretty sick too, because if you could manage to get 40 hours a week on 2 apps, which I think people could, right? People work 70, 80 hours. So if you split that time between Uber and Lyft, you could get 2 weeks vacation from Uber and Lyft. And that would be fucking awesome. Because then you could get 2 paychecks if you went on vacation, or for 2 weeks, you could get paid from Uber and then drive for Lyft. I forgot about sick pay and vacation, that's right. Don't forget about 401ks and stuff like that. All Uber has to do is give full control to the driver, which will not go into employee status. Okay, we're going to put you in the crib, buddy. All right, he was freaking out, so that was unfortunate. But now I can concentrate more on what I'm doing. Don't worry about him in a little second here. So, where were we here? Give full control to the drivers. Yeah, so that's true. What this might do is it might cause Uber and Lyft to stop treating us like employees. So that's been my biggest complaint now ever since upfront pricing. Ever since upfront pricing, I said that we are now employees. We're not independent contractors. And I want to be an independent contractor. But upfront pricing, the way that works now, drivers are getting fucked by Uber and Lyft. So yes, if they give us back control, they go back to per mile, per minute, or they just make it 75% our cut, 25% their cut, and they can charge customers whatever they want to, then that would work too. Hillbilly says hi. So that's good. I said hi back. Hi. Rideshare driven. They'll be able to make you drive for only one platform if you're an employee. That's a possibility. Yep. There will be no more surge or boost. I don't think that's necessarily true. I wish it was, though. I think that we should just get paid a better per minute, per mile fee, and then they have no surge. And then you don't have to be all tricky and shit and, like, game the system. You just make money. You can't restrict driving for other companies. No, but what they could do is they could say they have an exclusivity contract. So when you're working for Uber, you can't be working for Lyft. Could, yeah. Part-time driver says, as a contractor, I set my price with the customer before doing any work. Can't do that with Uber. Exactly. And moreover, to that point, let me ask you this question. When does your contract expire with Uber? When are you going to go into negotiation with Uber over your next contract? When are you going to go into negotiation over compensation? Now, y'all know you don't have a contract with Uber that doesn't expire, and you're not going to enter into contract negotiations. Y'all just know that. That's another reason why I think that we're employees. I can't go to Uber and I can't say pay me more money per mile. I can't go to the customer and say, hey, I'm not doing this. No, you're going to have to pay me $10 extra to take you on this ride. I'm not taking it. If you were a contractor, you could. Hillbilly says, state law supersedes only when federal law does not exist. Yes, that's true. So basically the way it works is the federal government gives an outline for the country and the states fill in the blanks or the voids. So it's kind of confusing because states actually in general are a lot more powerful than the federal government in everybody's day-to-day life, right? What your speed limit is, what is considered a commercial zone or residential zone. Can you build a house here? What color can your house be? How much pollution can go into your local lake? How much water you have? The lead that's in your water, right? Like Flint, Michigan is getting poisoned by the state of Michigan, and the federal government can't really do a lot about it. They can complain about it, but Michigan has to fix it themselves, right? So states, policing, right? There's not a USA police force, right? There's like the California police. There's a county sheriff. Sometimes cities have their own police departments. These are called policing powers that each state has. That's why when like one video is released of like a cop just fucking killing a black guy like for no reason, like the guy's like, hi, what's up? What are you doing? Oh, I'm crossing the street. Well, guess what? You're black and I'm a cop. And he shoots him. Everyone gets mad because they're like, my police officer doesn't do that. Well, no, right? Like California or whatever might have cops that are perfectly reasonable and fine. That doesn't mean if you go to Mississippi, there's not going to be a racist KKK cop who's killing black people. Like, that's happened for 200 years, right? Like, Louisiana has a big history of KKK members being in the police department of Louisiana. So, yeah, in Louisiana, in certain counties, there are super racist cops who are killing black people all the time. That doesn't mean, like, it's going to happen in your town, right? And so when they complain about their local police force being racist, it doesn't mean that all cops are racist. I don't ever understand why people get so mad about that. But that's the difference between federal and state and what you're talking about, the laws. And that applies here because the state of California can say Uber and Lyft drivers are contractors, but that doesn't have anything to do with any other state. So another state can still classify Uber and Lyft drivers as contractors, even if they're considered employees in California. MS Silverhammer in the house. What's up? For now, this decision is only binding in California. It will probably be appealed to the federal district court right away. Maybe. I don't. So here's the thing. Uber and Lyft, or in this case, Dynamex, has to show that the state law violates either a federal law or the federal constitution in order to go to federal court. I don't see how they do that, because they'd have to show, I guess they would have, what they would have to do in order to do that is show that the way that the judge, remember, this is a unanimous decision. Every court justice on the California Supreme Court ruled this way, so it's not like it's a split decision. So they would have to say the criteria that the judge used to rule for the workers violates the IRS code for classification. And I mean, if you guys go to the IRS website, it's pretty vague. So I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be able to do that. We'll see what happens, though. I'm sure they will at least try, even if they don't have a shot at it. Not true, then weed wouldn't be legal in California. Weed is not legal in California. The federal government can still come to California and arrest you for having marijuana. Okay? That's what Jeff Sessions says he's going to do. What weed being legal in California means is that California police will not arrest you for marijuana. So if you're pulled over by someone who gets a paycheck from California, they're not going to arrest you, okay? Because you can have it in the state of California. Now, if a federal marshal or like the FBI or who else can do it? The firearms dude, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms division, whatever the fuck they are, the ATF. ATF, I think what they are, yeah. They can arrest you. Companies who don't pay federal taxes on their weed, or who do pay federal tax on their weed, the FBI can come seize that property because they're violating federal law. So that's an example of police power versus federal power, right? So California can say, we're not going to prosecute, we're not going to put in jail, and we're not going to arrest anyone who has weed. So we're just not going to do it. The DA isn't going to bring it to court. The judge can't send someone to jail, and police officers can't arrest you for having weed. Also, we will give business licenses in the state of California to people who sell weed. And you can buy weed at that establishment. So California can do that. That's in violation of the federal law. So if the feds want to come into a dispensary and arrest everybody, they can still do that. So just because it's illegal in California doesn't mean the federal government can't do it. The problem is, to do that, the federal government needs to spend money, and like they got more important shit to do than worry about people smoking weed. To be honest, the Fed doesn't really care. Well, they didn't care until Trump was elected, and then Jeff Sessions was confirmed as the Attorney General, because Jeff Sessions decides where that money can be spent. So Jeff Sessions can still arrest you for weed if you want to. Don't blame me. Blame all those people who voted for Trump. Obama didn't arrest or said he wouldn't arrest anybody. There were some raids still, though. I don't believe this decision will hold up. That's true. That's probably, well, I don't know. We'll see. Here's the thing. You can't appeal it past a state Supreme Court. It's just federal court after that. So the federal court can't tell California how to classify people, right? Like, okay, so let's back up. The reason that you have speed limits enforced by the federal government is not because the federal government has the power to tell the state of California the fastest you can go on a road is 65 miles an hour, right? What the federal government says is, we will not give you money for highways if your roads exceed 65 miles per hour. So like Texas, for example, said, fine, fuck you, federal government. We're going to make the speed limit 85 miles an hour. Don't give us any money, and we're going to pay for it ourselves. And they set up a bunch of tolls. So in some places in Texas, this was in the late 90s, early 2000s, you could go 85 miles an hour in Texas. And those roads weren't funded by the federal government. Now, eventually what happened is Texas needed the money, so they changed it back to fit with her, right? So the federal government can't tell California how to classify workers. they would have to use the threat of funding somehow. The problem is, I don't think the federal government gives any money to California regarding employment status. Now, I might be wrong. Maybe they could attach it to some kind of grant, like, oh, we've been giving California X amount of dollars in grant money. We're gonna take that away if they don't reclassify drivers as contractors. But I mean, they have to show that the California Supreme Court violated federal law somehow in a federal court. I just don't see how they're going to do that. I might be wrong. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know. Maybe it'll be easy, and I'm just a crazy person. And this M Silverhammer says, I wonder if Jay Crowder will be making $1.90 or $1. Is that $1.90 a week in minimum wage? No more 10-hour days or overtime. Oh, shit. No kidding. Oh, fuck. So you can only work 8 hours a day. So you really have to have a lot of apps, right? Because you're going to log in for Uber, but only for 8 hours. So you want to spread that over the whole day. So you have to use Uber and Lyft together. Uniforms, flare pins, and buttons. Yes, they could require you to wear all that. Weed is only legal with medical recommendation. Okay, so Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, weed is completely legal. I think in Massachusetts, completely legal. You can, for recreational reasons, for no other reason than you want to get high, you can go to a dispensary, basically like a liquor store for weed, and on the shelves, they have edibles, they have smokables, and they have dissolvables, okay? And there's actually a guy who sells it. He's like a sales dude. He'll tell you, this weed came from here, this weed tastes like this weed will do this to you, this weed will make you feel like this. And you can choose your weed and buy it in cash at point of sale for no other reason than you want to get high. Beyond those 5 states, 28 states have legalized it for medical reasons. And some of them not for personal use. So some states have legalized weed for testing, meaning they're doing like medical research. And some it's consumable. So if you like cancer, you can get prescribed weed in order to make your, give you the munchies so you eat more. If you have chronic back pain, instead of taking an opiate, right? Like you can, if you have back pain, you can get all these like really hardcore drugs to deal with the pain that can be addictive. So instead of getting those drugs assigned to you, you could use weed as in a prescription. So at 28 states, weed is legal in some form or another, but really only 4 or 5 have it just outright legal. Timothy says, that's all jacked up. Driving the drunks around. Alcohol should be illegal if you do that. Exactly. I couldn't agree more. DEA is the federal agency that enforces drug laws. Thank you. I couldn't fucking think of the name. I think the ATF can do something too, but yeah, the DEA. And you're right. Uber will claim that the drivers meet the IRS definition of an independent contractor, which I think that drivers do meet. I did a couple videos on that. I can see that they fit the IRS definition, but I think they fit more that they don't. And I did a few videos. Maybe I'll pull it up for this live stream too. How many apps are there? A fuck zillion. So here in California, you have Uber, you have Lyft, you have fuck, let me pull it up. I have a list here that I just keep for the sake of this kind of stuff, just in case something like this happens. Give me a second, guys. I have a list here. A list. I just have to grab it on the computer. I didn't think I'd need the list today, but since you asked, I'll pull it up. No problemo. Cause I'm here for you guys. I just have to find it real quick. Boom. Oh, I think I found it, guys. Okay. So just driving apps. These are what I found. Uber, Lyft, Fasten, Ride Austin, Uber Taxi, Flywheel, Via, Get. Okay, so that's 8. There are 8 driving apps that I'm aware of. Food delivery apps are DoorDash, Postmates, Caviar. I'm missing one more. I can't think of the name of it. It's like Dash or something like that. So there's 8 driving ones I'm aware of and 6 apps. So what is that? 8 plus 6 is 14. So as of right now, I know of 14 apps. It's a lot of apps. RideShare Consultant, do you have StripperShare problems last week? From what I gather, your live streams, when you have used the compass, it has done anything but work. I love it. I didn't have any problem with it. Last week. No, are you talking about the update? So you updated your app and you had problems with it? That happens a lot of times when they push out updates. But no, I've been very happy with SherpaShare. I don't even get paid money from them. Like, I have a referral bonus of $5 whole. That's right, guys. You sign up for SherpaShare with my code. I get 5 big ones. So you can see that there's a clear incentive for me to chill out for SherpaShare. I would say I'm new in California, so I don't fucking know where anything is. I don't know where the bars are. I don't know where the clubs are. I don't know where the hot spots are. So I rely heavily on SherpaShare. Now, in California, or in Washington, I didn't use SherpaShare very much because I knew where everything was. I'd been driving there for years. And it's smaller than California. California's a big-ass, especially the Bay Area. It's a big-ass state, and there are a lot of places that I'm not even aware of. So when I drive in California, I rely heavily on SherpaShare because I don't know what I'm doing. So you guys will notice on my live streams, as time goes by, I'll use SherpaShare less and less. But right now, like, if I don't have SherpaShare, I feel like I'm naked. Like, I feel like those, you know, those dreams in high school you have, where like you go and you're like in front of the class and you're supposed to give a report, but like you don't have the report and you can't really think of like the topic, and then all of a sudden you're naked and everyone's laughing at you. Like, that's how I feel without SherpaShare, because I don't know San Francisco that well, especially not at night. Like, I generally know where things are. Like, I know where the Coit Tower is. I know where like the Fisherman's Wharf is. I know where some concert venues are. I know where AT&T Park is, but like, I don't know where local people go on the day-to-day grind. I don't even know where companies are. I know where the financial district is, but I haven't figured out what those buildings are yet. And that comes with time. But until I get that level of competency, I'm basically going to use SherpaShare all the time. And I've been happy with it. Moose in the house. He says, shouldn't an independent contractor worker be able to set their own rates? Yes. That is, when people try to tell me gig economy workers are contractors, the question I always ask them, when does your contract expire with whoever it is, Uber, Lyft, Postmates? And when your contract expires, what are you going to ask for in contract negotiations for the next contract? Because if you're an independent contractor, one, you have a contract that specifies specifically what you can and can't do, and that's not the terms of service, because terms of service is not a contract. And my proof on that is every single time Uber has raised rates without asking or giving something to us, which in this last year alone, 5 times the booking fee has gone up without drivers getting extra money. So that's not a contract, because Uber can violate the contract at any time. It's a term of service, because they're a technology company. They're not a transportation company, guys. They're a technology company. So you have a user term of service. You don't have a contract with Uber. And if you think you're an independent contract, just go to the local Green Hub, ask to talk to the person in charge of rates, and then negotiate with them higher rates for yourself because you think you're a better driver than the average Uber driver. You can't do it because you're not an employee, because you're an employee. You're not a contractor. Like, I hate to tell you that. That's just the way. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. Silverhammer says, if this decision stands, you guys and gals in Cal are screwed. You will be told what to do, where to report, and when. You will be limited to 8 hours a day. You'll look cute in the Uber form, though. That's possible. Remember, though, if Uber starts doing that, not everyone will do it. Okay, the vast majority of Uber drivers are part-time. Like, percentage-wise, it's absurd. It's more than 75% of drivers are part-time. and they work less than 30 hours a week. So if Uber has like a 8-hour cap, or if Uber has like shifts or goes into any of those directions, they won't have coverage. They'll be massacred. Remember, there's a union in Seattle, right? So we already had all this discussion, and Uber told the city council straight up, we won't be able to operate in Seattle if they have a union and they ask for shifts or a cap on how many drivers drive. Because one of the things the union wanted to do is cap the maximum amount of drivers that could drive at any one time in Seattle. And Uber was like, we won't be able to operate in Seattle. We'll be crushed, because like demand goes up and down, right? People log out of Uber and don't drive for Uber unless there's like a surge. So if there's a maximum amount of people on the app, people just won't do it. And if they got to wear an Uber shirt, they just won't work for Uber. But to your point, they could if they wanted to. Like if Uber wanted to make me wear an Uber shirt, if I'm an employee, they could do that. They could tell me that. Part-time driver said, under federal law, if you're a tipped employee, you can pay you less than minimum wage as long as your tips equal minimum wage. Under California wage, you're guaranteed a minimum of wage plus 100% tips. Yes, that's true. I don't know. I don't think I make more than minimum wage in tips. It would be close though. I don't even know what California minimum wage is. I'm so used to Washington where it's just $15 an hour, because that makes the most sense. What is California minimum wage? California minimum wage, $11 an hour. Yeah, I don't think I make $11 an hour in tips. So I make about $1 a ride. Yeah, so I'd probably make between like $4 and $6 an hour in tips. So they'd have to cover the rest of that, I think. Anyway, that's an interesting point, part-time driver. I like it when really smart comments like that come in because it makes me think. Anytime I have to think, I really enjoy it. So thanks, part-time driver. Rideshare consultant said, maybe it's because I have an iPhone and the app update was different. TripperShare didn't log miles multiple days last week. I missed out on 300 miles. That sucks. You should be able to manually put them in, though, I think. Let's see. I'll mess around with it really quick. I know that at one point there was a way to do it manually. So I'll look at the app more and see if I can figure out how to do that. Right System Consultants, I told the CEO that to make it right for paying customers and give them compensation for SherpaShare mistakes. He said, you're kidding me, right? Yeah, I don't know. I can see both sides of that, right? Like if you get chicken from KFC and it's old and you don't like it, you can just go back to the counter and say, give me my money back for that. But at the same time, like if the app missed something, like, are they financially responsible? I feel like that's different. So I don't know. I can see it on both ends, but apparently the CEO doesn't agree with you in half of me. I think you're half right. Like, honestly, like I'm literally 50-50 on that. SherpaShare should give you money or at least like okay, like so I'll compare it to this. I have an internet, right? I pay like whatever it is, like a $55, $60, $70. I don't even know. I pay some amount of money for cable internet. I have high-speed internet, so I can do all these live chats and stuff. If my internet goes out for a day and I can't use the internet, I call Comcast, and they don't pay me back for the whole month. They pay me back for the time I couldn't use it, right? So let's say I pay $30 a month because it's easy to do the math. They'd give me $1 for them for the day that didn't work. I think that would be the most fair thing. So if it didn't work for 2 weeks, then they should give you half of your money back for that month, which I think is like $5, 10 months. I don't even know how much you pay. $10. So they should give you $5 there. Am I not the fairest person in the world? Bam, slam the gavel. Bam, genius decision. I'm a genius. TNC, Transportation Network Company. Yes. I think you're talking about whether or not they are, if they're a tech company or not. they're a TNC. That's not Technology Network Company. That's Transportation Technology Company. I also hear there's a very high turnover in rideshare. Yes. Out of 100 drivers, 94 quit after 1 year. So that means only 4 people drive for a rideshare company after 1 year. A lot of it's because people like to do rideshare in between other stuff. It's like if you're a plumber, you do rideshare on weeks when you're not plumbing, right? So let's say you don't have anything coming up for 2 weeks. You get in your car, you drive for 2 weeks until you can get somebody who needs you to plumb for them, or an electrician or something like that, right? You're a musician. You got a gig, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday at this bar that you play at. So on not Thursday, Friday, and Saturday when you're not playing music, you go out and get in your car, right? Or you move from Arizona to California. You don't start your job until February, and you move in January, so you do Uber and Lyft to cover the middle, right? But then once you start your job, you don't do Uber or Lyft anymore. So that's a lot of it. Also, like, college kids do this while they're in college to make money when they're not in school, and then they go get a job, and they don't do this anymore. PJ Slots in the house. What's up, Uber CD, Uber DC? Use a logbook for miles. I start my odometer at 0, and then when my night is done, I write down my miles. I know my odometer is correct. These ride programs have issues. That's a good idea. Also keep in mind that PJ Slots is old, and so he doesn't know how to use like computers and things. Like he has to like squint, because his eyes are so bad. And he's like, and then he yells at kids on his lawn. He's like, "Get off my lawn, you kids!" And they're like, "You are an Uber driver, and you're on my lawn, and I got you to take me to the airport." And he's like, "Oh, well, get in the car, but don't play any of your music." I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. His eyes aren't that bad. Silverhammer says, this might actually work out better for all drivers, as Uber may be forced to make big changes that will benefit drivers, like negotiating contracts and showing destinations on each request. So, that's my hope. What you just said, that's a great comment. What I think Uber should do, and I've been saying this for like, since before I started driving, because this controversy has been going on for a long time. Uber should just hire people as drivers, like straight employees, like not contractors. They should just hire, like, not, it doesn't have to be a lot, like 10. Just hire like 10 drivers and have them work shifts Monday through Friday for 8 hours. And then they can do anything the fuck they want to them. They pay them an hourly wage or commission or put them on salary. I don't care how they do it. They could even give them company cars. I don't give a shit. Just hire 10 people, have them be, you work full time for Uber. You clock in for 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. And then Uber can go to court and say, these 10 drivers are employees. This is how we treat employees. These gazillion other drivers are independent contractors. We don't treat them the same as we treat the employees. So I don't know why they don't do that. I think that makes a ton of sense, and they won't do it. I don't know. I don't know why. I think it's because they want to be considered a technology company, right? They don't want to be considered a taxi cab company for a lot of tax reasons. So maybe that's why. But it just makes more sense if they did that. But if, like I said, remember it's a spectrum. So 1 on the spectrum is employee, 10 on the spectrum is contractor. As you slide closer and closer to employee, what I hope Uber does is then stop having so much control. Okay? 1, upfront pricing. They should just pay us 75% of every ride. None of this bullshit where they take 50%. Stuff like that, they're clearly not being a contractor. They're clearly being an employer. Because they're charging customers one rate, pocketing the money, and then paying us wages. That upfront pricing, other than theft, is paying you a wage. They're saying, that you are not collecting money. Uber's saying, I'm collecting the money, and I'll pay you what I think I owe you because you're an employee. That's what upfront pricing is. If they went back to the old model, they would have a leg to stand on, because they say, no, the driver collects the money and then pays us a contracting fee of 25%. Well, they can't say that now because upfront pricing. And the other thing they can do, like you said, is they can be more open about where you're going, how far you're going, how much you're going to make. But ultimately, and this is where I think Uber and Lyft are just totally fucked, and they have they can't win a legal argument, is if you pick up an Uber Pool passenger. Okay, first off, before we even get there, I can't opt out of Uber Pool. If I was an independent contractor, I could just say, I'm not taking Uber Pool. But you can't do that. I have to take Uber Pool if I want incentives, especially on Lyft because of the acceptance rate. So if you want the power driver bonus, you have to take Lyft line. There's just it. There's just you can't say no. You're forced to do it in order to get that compensation. But furthermore, once you do take Uber and Lyft, they just give you people to pick up. You can't filter them anymore. You don't even get to find out what their rating is. It's just once you pick up an Uber Pool passenger, they just fill your queue until you're done. You can't even log out. So, I mean, are you really an independent contractor if you don't have a say in who you pick up, where you're going, how many people you can pick up? Not even if you want their rating or not? I've picked up people with less than a 3-star rating on Uber Pool because I don't have a say in it. They just force it. Lyft is even worse. Remember, Lyft has that dynamic matching system, dynamic matching. So if you pick someone with 5 stars, you're like, yes, this is either a new driver or someone who tips. I'm going to take this 5-star ride. You start driving that passenger. If another Lyft driver becomes available who is closer to that customer than you, that driver will automatically get that ride. So you see online, these people post pictures like Lyft passenger cancels over and over again. There's like 10 cancellations in a row. That's what's going on. Lyft is taking that person's ride and giving it to somebody else. And then they'll match you, and Lyft won't even ask you if you want to do it or not. Dynamic matching on Lyft means they just send you whoever they want to. So you don't even have control over who you pick up anymore. I'm hoping decisions like this will change Uber and Lyft from doing that dumb shit, because it pisses me off when I don't even get to decide based upon a rating if I'm going to get someone or not. I told him I didn't expect a full refund, but I expect 1 year free of RIDESHARE. What does that really cost them? $120 probably. The problem is, or day could be 4 miles, one person, 300 ride for full-time driver. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I feel like if you get an app and it doesn't work right, that you should get something. But what I'm saying is, I don't think you should get $120 because the app messed up. Because apps mess up a lot. Like, Uber messes up a shit ton. And it used to be even worse, right? Like, it would just, you can't drop somebody off. It will forever be looping on dropping off the customer. So you can't pick anyone else up because it's like forever mapping out. Right? There would be times, especially when Uber was new, where it just wouldn't work. You'd log in and it was like error. And you log in on your passenger app, it would just say error, and you couldn't work that day. So I hear you. I feel like you should get something, but I don't feel like you should get a whole year. I think that's too much. But no, I feel like the CEO telling you to fuck off, that's probably not good. But somewhere between customer fuck off and here's $120, I think there's a happy median in there somewhere, right? So I don't know what you should get, but I think that maybe that's asking for a bit too much. Like, maybe like a month, right? Or like a discount on something. I don't know. But 120, like, okay, if you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, you buy $20 worth of chicken, right? And you're supposed to get 20 pieces, so they're $1 each. And you get to your table and you're like, what? There's only 18 pieces in here. Like, you don't go to KFC and be like, I'm missing 2 pieces of chicken. Y'all bitches owe me a year's worth of chicken. That's not how it works. They'll give you the 2 pieces they're missing, or maybe refund you the $20 you paid for the meal. But like, I think maybe asking for $120 or for $49 even might be too much. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. I feel you. I feel that you have been wronged, and it should be righted some way. But I also feel like maybe a full year subscription might be too much. But I feel like he should offer something, even if it's like a gift card. Like, I called DirecTV one time and was like, dude, this is fucked up. What, you know, like, I can't watch DirecTV. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's out in your area. I was like, what the fuck? Well, I'm not going to pay you guys money for a service I can't have. So they sent me a $25 check in the mail. Or a gift card, like a Visa gift card. So maybe something like that. I don't know. I'm not the CEO of a company, though, so no one gives a shit what I have to say. I have feelings. Yeah, sorry, UberGC. Asking for compensation with free future month is very fair versus asking for a refund. I was in conversations with the CEO during the middle of any problems multiple days in a row. Huh, well, hey, man. You do you, bro. You do you. Dale's in the house. What's up, Dale? He says hi. Is there a mileage app that lets you start and stop mileage at your discretion? These mileage apps make you swipe left or right and are inaccurate. Moose. Okay, so after talking shit about SherperShare, I'm going to fucking talk about how awesome it is. I do like SherperShare. So here is a trip, right? Like, I took the kids to the lake yesterday. So if this was for work, I'd click on this button here, right? And then I would pick what I did, right? What did I do? Why should I write this off? So you can pick Uber, you can pick Lyft, you can Amazon Flex, right? But I didn't. It was personal. So let's go to personal, and I'll say entertainment. So that's what it goes. And then I drove back from the lake to there, right? Now you guys can see all the shit I do. Or you can just hit personal if you want to. So Sunday, I drove someone to the airport. So this was Uber. Let's go to Uber. And then this was also Uber. I took him to Pleasanton. You can see I haven't done this week yet, right? Hold on real quick. My kid just started crying in his crib. So this is what Rideshare Consultant is complaining about. He's saying that this shit didn't work. It's okay, buddy. Did you wake up and no one was there because you're in your crib? Is that scary, buddy? Is that scary? I worked on Friday too. Okay, let me get through all this so I can explain to you what I was going to say. I didn't realize I had this many drives that weren't done. Okay. No, that's right. I did that one. Okay. So if you go up here to the top here, you can configure how you want it to do. So mileage tracking is on or off, right? So this is automatic. So automatically, this is mileage tracking. So you can turn it on or off manually this way. Also, what isn't on here is while you're driving, stop it, Nate. Are you banging on the table, buddy? So while you're driving, on this screen right here where it says no trips yet, check back. If you're in the middle of a trip, there will be down here an option to end or start the trip. So you can manually end a trip if you want, or start a trip. Okay? So that's on the mileage screen. So say you're talking or whatever, you're in the middle of a drive, go here to mileage, and then under here, right here, will be start and stop. So yes, you can manually start and stop it if you'd like to, if you don't want it to be automatic. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that answers your question. So yeah, I use SherperShare for mileage tracking and for expenses and all kinds of fun stuff. I'm actually probably going to do a video on SherperShare because the new update added some cool features where you can like link your bank account and they'll record your earnings and stuff like that. But not today. At first, he said I had connectivity issues when that wasn't the case. He didn't anything but admit they were having problems. That's why I'm irritated at them. Dude, I can tell you're irritated. Like, you do not have to tell me you're irritated. You are frustrated. Roger Dodger. I get you on that. You feeling better, buddy, now that I'm here? You feeling better? You want to go adventure? Okay. Go play with your toys. Uber to see, how do you feel about the rideshare company sharing names of banned drivers? If a driver is banned for a crime, send out the driver's name so he and she is banned from all rideshare driving. I don't think I don't know. I just feel like maybe that's too much responsibility to be giving a driver. Oh, hold on. What's up, buddy? What's up, buddy? My kid just tried to leave. Check this out, guys. Check this out. I don't know if you can see him or not. You see that? So the reason I said, guys, I gotta get up. He was like deuces. Like he just opened the door and was like gone. I had to go shut the door on him. Now he's pissed off at me. I might have to end this live stream because he's pretty upset. You can't go outside, buddy. Whoop, whoop. Here's a ball. There's a ball. Yee. He loves the balls. So I don't think that's a rideshare company's responsibility. I feel like if they want to do that, they need to have a database, and you can be added to a database, right? Like a no drive list, and taxi cab companies too. The problem is, I think sometimes some companies will be too strict, right? So like Uber might ban you if you've ever had a felony. I don't necessarily agree with that. Some felonies are okay with me, like drug possession. If you have drug possession, I don't care. You should be able to drive a car. What does drug possession have to do with that? Like armed robbery, if you have a felony for armed robbery, yeah, you probably shouldn't drive. But let's say Lyft allows you to drive with them if you have drug possession, but Uber doesn't. So if Uber doesn't allow that and they send that to the like this database saying this person's being blacklisted, well, should Lyft then still be able to let that person drive or not? So I don't know. The way it should happen is Uber should conduct a background check in accordance with local law or federal law. And if they allow somebody on their platform who didn't get a proper background check, then they should be liable, right? So like, here's an example. You just did a video, Uber DC, on 106 rapes by Uber drivers that happened this last year. If Uber hired a driver that had sexual misconduct on their background check and let them drive anyway, then those 106 people should be able to sue Uber for not doing their job. And that's how I think it should be handled. That being said, if that's ultimately what it comes to and there's a no list and a yes list, I guess. The problem with those lists is, you know, there's no redemption. Right? I don't know. So I'm 50-50 on it. Flowmaster8 says, the lowest rating I've ever picked up, 1.7. I did it on a live stream in Seattle. And the dude seemed fine, so he must have been new and thrown up a lot or something. A year's $49. Okay. Hey, man. You do you, boo. But sometimes, like, $49, like, are you going to have a heart attack over $49? I got a lot of shit in my life, man. I'll be pissed about $49. Like, here's the thing. If you don't use Share from now on, I get it, right? They screwed you over. It didn't work the way you wanted to. Ask for a refund. If they don't give you a refund, that sucks. Just don't use them, right? But, like, I don't think I would freak out over $49. I would be pissed off about it. Yeah, but, like, I got shit I got to do, man. I got too much time to worry about calling Share and fighting with them and blah, 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 blah. I'll just say, fine, if you're a shitty company and you don't provide a good service, I'm out. And I don't know. But, hey, man, you're entitled to it. Go get it. Go get your $49 if that's what you want. Just got to realize is how much is $49 worth of your time? I make that sometimes in an hour of rideshare driving. So if I can't solve the problem in an hour, probably not going to do it. If I can't solve it in 2 or 3 hours, definitely not fucking going to do it. But, you know, you do you, boo. Flowmaster8. Stride is the best app for mileage reporting. Instead of sliding right or left, you indicate whether it's right or not. So I just did that on Share. Like, okay, this is why I like Share, okay? I pick someone up with Postmates. I drive 7 miles. I go in my app. I say, I drove 7 miles. End the trip. I did that with Postmates. Then I take an Uber passenger. I drive around on Uber. When I'm done with Uber, I log out. I classify that as an Uber trip. Okay? Then I switch over to Caviar, and I drive on Caviar. Then I end the trip manually. I go in, I say that was a Caviar trip. So at the end of the month, I can see how many miles I've driven for each company. And plus, on the other side, I can see how much income those are bringing in. I guess I'll just do that now since we're on the topic, so you guys can see what that's like. Now, not everyone likes linking their bank account with stuff, so I understand that. So if you don't want to, you got it. But this is the new thing that they did, which I just fucking love this so much. Let me switch over here. So here. So if you link your bank account, it breaks down what you've done, right? So Amazon Flex, that's how much I've done. Caviar, that's how much I've done. You can see I've done a lot of Lyft this year. Postmates, that's what I've done. And Uber, that's what I've done, right? So you can see how much money you've made. So SherpaShare is like MileIQ, QuickBooks, and Stride all together in one app, right? So you can see how much money, like I've been doing a lot more Lyft lately, right? But look, you know, like I did a lot more Postmates here because Postmates had a good incentive that month. I did Uber basically exclusively right here because they had a good incentive, right? Amazon Flex, I only did 115, like, right? I don't do a lot of Amazon Flex, but I do a little bit. So then you can compare how much money these services are bringing in versus how many miles you're driving, right? Because you can get here, like, say, like, you know, this month, last 3 months, or whatever, and then what the classification is. And then you can compare those, like, what is the most profitable product you're driving for. So if I've only made, you know, 175 on Amazon Flex, but I only drove 10 miles, that's more profitable than if I did 1,600 with Uber and I drove like 1,000 miles. Do you see what I'm saying? So with SherpaShare, it can get that data for you, and it breaks it down. So that's what I really like. And then obviously expenses too, right? So this is just for this week. You can look at just gas. You can look at parking toll or whatever. You can do this month. You can do last month. You can do this last 3 months. You can do this year. And it does all of these different things, right? And so you can see, like, I've had $800 in business-related costs so far. And I've made $6,000. So what is that? $5,200 kind of thing. That's why I really like SherpaShare. Because it's like Quicken Books, and it's like MileIQ and Stride just pushed together in one app. But if it's not working for you, like, I don't blame you for not using it. Like, if it didn't work, if the app didn't work, like, why would you use it? Like, I don't blame you. IRS says you can deduct deadhead miles. Yes. This would include the miles you traveled to pick up a person. Are you including this in your miles? Yes. Basically, the way rideshare works is this. From the time you get into the car, into the time, or out of your house, to the time you get back to your house, every one of those miles is deductible. And I gotta try and make him happy here. So I'm gonna. Yay! You like bouncing? Hey! You're a fussy baby today. You're a fussy baby today. So yes, do all of those. Hey Aaron, awesome channel. Thanks Roxy Ride. Roxy Ride in the house! The live stream is killing it today. Let me know how I can see rideshare lists for California. I don't know what that means. What do you mean a rideshare list for California? What rideshare companies are available in California? Okay. I'll try to do that. MSM Hammer says, when you use the heat map, you can see tons of other Uber drivers near you, much more than the Uber passenger app. That's true. Okay, so the way, here, I'll just show you. I'll just fucking show you guys. That's a good point. Although you should still use both, and I'll show you why. I'll show you why in a second. So let's get rid of this. Okay, this is what he's talking about. So SherpaShare, come on, don't fail me now. Heat map, right? So in East Bay, we only have Uber and Lyft, so that's all I care about. So let's look that up. So you can see these are all of the drivers who use SherpaShare. Now that's the trick. Not the closest, not all total, but these are the drivers who use SherpaShare who are driving right now. So you can see them, right? So that's very different than the Uber Lyft app. Which is, where did I put the Uber app? Is that on here or did I put that in the other one? Yeah, I put that in the other one. Okay. So let's go to the Uber app here. The Uber app, and Lyft does this too, will only show you the 8 closest riders. Shh. Not right now, Johnny. I'm online. So loud. So you can see these are the 8 closest cars to me. That doesn't show you, look, but like, I'm like, well, I don't want to go here. I want to go down here. Well, you don't know who's in Oakland. You don't know who's in Alameda. You don't know who's in Piedmont. All you know is the 8 closest rides with Uber. So I would say that your best option is to do both. Do both SherpaShare and the Uber app and make your decision. So you know for a fact there are 8 cars here. And there's 1 car on SherpaShare. So in my opinion, every one of these cars counts for about 8 drivers. Not always, but not kind of, right? So here we know in this area there's probably around 16 drivers. 16 drivers, you know, 8 up here. For those of you who are wondering why this guy's up here, there are classes up here for the University of California, Berkeley. And they almost all take Uber because it's way the fuck up out of nowhere. And the bus is slow. Another advantage that SherpaShare has that the app doesn't have. Well, fuck, I'm going to drive next to San Francisco. So I don't care about Berkeley. What's in San Francisco? I say this and it's not updating. This should update. Yeah, there you go. So these are only SherpaShare drivers, right? So where's the best place to drive? Well, there's a lot of drivers in this area here, even though it's red. Holy shit. Look, it's red as fuck right now in this part of San Francisco, this park. But there's only 1 SherpaShare driver. So this would be a good spot to go. South San Francisco is fucking on fire, and there's no SherpaShare drivers right here. So that might be a good place to go. Looks like the west side is the best part right now because this is orange, yellow, and red, and there's nobody here but 2 cars. Or say you're like, what about Redwood City and shit? Well, I'm gonna get closer to those tech guys. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Well, there's some business and some drivers here. Anyway, my point is you should use both, right? Because Uber shows you the closest 8, but only 8. And SherpaShare shows you only people who are on SherpaShare. So, like, you know, this is not good of a spot. Like, I'm surrounded by Uber drivers in this spot. So I hope that answered that question. Next one is, I have to go to work. Do you answer my question? I gotta go, buddy. What did you ask? I did answer that question. I didn't do a good job of it. I said yes and no. Drink some water. Yeah, oh, you can tell that I'm parched. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for the live share today, or the live stream today. We talked a lot more than I wanted to about a lot of different things, but that's what I like about the live stream. Those goes. So if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and ask them. Otherwise, I am logging out, guys. After subscribing to your channel, it's an automatic bell icon occasion. Should I change it to all? Yes, if you want to get notifications when I go live and when I upload a video, you have to hit the bell notification icon. I call it the stupid YouTube bell. Kind of looks like this, a little bit like that, similar-ish. And you have to select all, otherwise you won't get notifications when I upload a video or I go live. Thank you, Moose. I appreciate it. All right, guys. So I think that's it for right exactly now. And I'll be doing a live stream from my car, as always. Oh, something interesting. I may or may not be featured in an upcoming article. They're sending out photographers. Guys, I'm a motherfucking model. So hopefully, I can't really talk a lot about it until it comes out, but hopefully the photographers will show up. Yes, we can still meet up. They can take pictures of me, and they will be satisfactory for their publication, and I will be a super Uber model. Bum, bum, bum. But I'll give you more details as I can later. That's all I can say about it right now. Deuces, guys.